You are now tuned in to another episode of the discussion. I am the bad guy, CJ Dove.
Listen, man, I don't got to tell you who I am, but I am the good guy, man. Edel, you already know.
Obviously,
I am the good guy.
You know, that has become like a moniker for you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, it's not like I really agree with that, but
I think you're starting to come around, though.
no, I'm not.
I really think you are.
I can promise you that I'm not coming around. And, you know.
But you will, though. You will soon enough.
I seriously doubt it. Because, I mean, you're a good guy. You know what I mean? As my brother. But, you know, as far as your
it's no buts.
Takes.
I got to have my own take, though, right?
Yeah, we all must have our own takes.
I have to have my own take, man.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once again, another episode of the discussion.
Yes, sir.
You got the good guy Edel, and you got the bad guy CJ Dove.
Very bad.
If this is your first time tuning in, please take the time to subscribe to the channel. Mm-hmm. Hit the bell so you get your notifications each and every time we drop new content.
Sure.
The link is posted below for those who have charity in your hearts. And if you want to donate to the show, the PayPal is pinned at the top of this post. And you can also cash app us via CJ money sign CJ Dove and money sign 23
Eric, not E. I know y'all call me E. I told you for a long time I had to play like I didn't know what y'all was talking about. So I'm telling y'all right now, my name start with an A. That's right.
So with that being said, salute to everybody. I know people who show up daily, so I want to shout them out. Our day ones, man. We're going to shout out Sheikah Dale. We're going to shout out Pancova. We're going to shout out LB. We're going to shout out Dominique Beckton. We're going to shout out my main man, Sean.
Hold up. Yeah, what up, Sean? But why we got to shout out Dominique all the time?
Because that's it. You know,
I love Dominique, but I ain't shouting Dominique out no more.
He's a favorite, bro.
He is, but I want to have him. I wonder if we can get him on one day and debate with him.
That would be a great choice.
Because he stay engaged.
Yeah, Dominique is a good brother, man. Salute to that brother. Salute to all the good brothers out there.
Yes, sir, man.
On this beautiful Thursday evening. Mm-hmm. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves.
Right.
And, you know, we're going to keep it pushing.
How was your day today, bro? I didn't even ask you how your day was.
Very busy day, man. You know,
work.
Little of this, little of that, little work. A little homework, a little music work, a little barbershop work,
right,
a little,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Pretty much all over the place, but, you know, that's, you know, regular-ish for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I handle it.
Well, that's what's good, man. That's what's up, bro.
Wash some dishes, man, you know.
Oh, look,
clean
you got
bathroom, you know, mop the floor.
This your home. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Listen, you didn't do nothing extra by doing that. Now, let me just say that. That's not extra.
Oh, it's extra.
No, that's not extra. It's your home. But look, I'm upset, for real, today. About a lot of things, but first, I'm upset I got to go to work tomorrow.
Don't be upset about that, man. Because
Friday, man.
Because the paycheck is coming.
Yeah, at least the paycheck work is starting to pick back up, and, you know, hopefully it stays consistent. So, you know. But, yo, today, before we start the show and get into what we're going to these topics, let's get a classic of the day, man. Let's get some vibe in here. You know what I'm saying? You know,
classic of the day, man. I chose this classic because this brother just recently passed away, and actually, this is an album that I feel like is a very underrated album. It was actually pretty good, and it's held up to the test of time. I just recently listened to it again, so start this off by saying rest in peace,
Black Rob.
To Black Rob.
Rest in peace.
Very talented brother, one of the unsung heroes in hip hop.
Right.
I have to be completely honest here. When I sat down and really thought about it,
right.
Let's take Biggie out of the bad boy equation. Right?
Right.
Being the Lox is considered a group.
Okay.
And they did one project with Bad Boy.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
And was ready to go. They get their check and they was ready to go.
Black Rob may be the second, in my opinion, is the second best artist that Bad Boy has ever had.
What, sales or just like
I'm
his
just
style?
saying,
He was big. Was he bigger than Craig Mack? I'm just asking because Craig Mack.
Well, they both have similar. You know what I'm saying? They both had big singles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. But Craig, who was bigger? Who do you think was bigger?
I think Black Rob was bigger than Craig.
Oh, okay. But you know what? I didn't listen to Black Rob that much. I never even heard a whole Black Rob album.
Okay. Well, if you never heard Life Story, I think that is one that you should definitely check out. It's it got a lot of gems on here. A lot of, like I said, it's a very underrated album. It was actually pretty good. You know what I mean? I wasn't one that was really into the polished Bad Boy sound.
Right.
Outside of Biggie.
Right.
Money, Power, Respect was okay, but it ain't grabbed me like that. This is, it might just be the second best hip hop Bad Boy album released on that label. Like when I'm really sitting here thinking about it.
Better than Mace?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Without question.
All right. Well, look, I know he had a couple of singles, like I said the other night on the show. I think he had, I know of a few. I just don't, you know what I mean? I never really listened to him. I wasn't really interested. By the time Black Rob came along, I was already so far down south. You know what I'm saying? You had to already had your foot in cement for me to rock with you, like Jigga and Nas or somebody.
So for anybody who never heard the, Black Rob Life Story album, I strongly recommend you give it a listen. Like I said, it's a lot of heat on here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna say rest in heaven to Black Rob.
Yes, sir.
Dope MC. I was a fan.
Which one you giving us today? What you giving us?
Being that Whoa would be typical.
Yeah, don't give me the Whoa, because that was one of his biggest hits. Give me something that because I haven't listened to an album. You probably couldn't name 5 songs off there for me. So just give me what.
So I'm gonna give y'all a record that I really love off of here. And while we salute it up to Black Rob, we're gonna get into some Can I Live? How about that? So what would you like to get into first?
Oh man, I want to go straight into the tough stuff first.
Ma'Khia Bryant.
Yes, I want to go into the shooting because this shooting happened during the time the verdict was taking place, and it was all being read or being, you know what I'm saying, trying to, what the jurors was in there deliberating. So, and this was taking place. Listen, now that morning I got a message from a buddy of mine up in New Jersey, and he's in law enforcement. And he sent me the video and said, like, yo, what you think? Because, I always get at him about some of the things that's happening, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like some of the things you can try to justify it. But I got to say, man, after watching the video, I was kind of shocked and disturbed. But not at the officer. I wasn't disturbed at the officer. I was thinking, look, this lady, I don't know all the names and the details. I watched the video a couple of times. I didn't even want to watch it anymore. And the lady, I think she called the police. One of the daughter called the police. Said some girls was trying to jump over, was fighting or whatever. And
that's correct.
And then when the police came, the girl that called the police ran up on the girl to stab her. And all I could think was, in that moment, what if the police wasn't there and didn't? The way she had that knife and when she lunged for this chick on that car, I was done. I was like, oh man, that was crazy.
There are a lot of things that I stand up for. I have to be completely honest here. This is something that I'm on the fence with. I guess I'm gonna look at the other side of the fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who are protesting this, they would argue that other measures of force could have been used. Taser, etc., or whatever, right? This is what people have to understand. You're making these decisions in a matter of seconds.
A split is just that, man.
Not
even a second.
So, okay, I don't like police. Let me put that out there first.
Right.
You know what I mean? From the time I was a shorty
Right.
to now, all I know is the griminess that the police department or the police all over the nation,
Right.
how they move.
Right.
I've been robbed by the police. I've been,
Yeah.
all kind of stuff, man. Stories that I'm not gonna get into.
Beat up by the police.
So it's not like I'm sitting here trying to, Blue Lives Matter type of stuff.
Right.
Right? But looking at the video,
It's
you
crazy.
can say, I guess, that the officer, could have just double tapped. He could have aimed for a leg or arm, but you're talking about seconds.
Yeah, but I don't even know if they even trained to even shoot at the legs. I don't even know. I mean, I'm not sure. I would like to know, and I'm gonna be talking about this more.
And
later.
there's a lot of disturbing things with this video.
Okay.
On top of that,
Such as?
the alleged father. I'm not quite sure, but I believe this guy is her foster parent. If you look at this video in the very beginning, and believe me, I looked at it thousands of times.
Okay.
He is kicking another young lady
What?
that was, in the very first part of the video, in the right side of the screen,
Right.
you see the father, the alleged father, the same guy who yells, "I know you didn't shoot my daughter," or something of that magnitude. He said, right?
While he was the one that was kicking the other girl.
He was kicking the kid.
Yeah, he should be arrested.
Though all of those girls were children.
That's crazy.
So that was the first thing to me that stood out. Like, why is this grown man kicking this girl? And when you watch the media attention and these people protesting, I have heard nothing about that aspect of the video. Everything is going straight to the police officer killing the girl. Now, I'm not saying that should not be
Right.
focused, but if we gonna be protesting some ish, we gotta look at everything.
Right.
And this father isn't right and direct for kicking that baby like that, man.
He is, and look, I'm just glad I'm not her parent, that kid parent. But I want to say, look, this is all wrong. Everything about this.
Very heartbreaking story.
It is. It's tragic. Not like you say. Look, I'm not telling you I'm finna say Blue Lives Matter and all these things. Look, I have my.
I don't like police. We don't like them.
Listen, I've had all my woke. You already know, but I don't know. I don't like in that second or in that moment, and I'm thinking about maybe saving someone's life. You know what I'm saying? And then I got to make a decision. I may not want to take your life, but I have to do something. And look, let me say, they said the taser. People are saying use the taser. What if he would have used the taser?
And tasers, and let's be clear about that too. Tasers do not always work.
Right, but that's what I was about to say. Now, if he'd have used the taser, and what if the taser would have worked? It would have worked, but what if she still would have stabbed the girl in that process? I mean, I don't know how do you mitigate threats like this. I just don't know how this. Listen, I'm just like you. I'm in the same boat with you when it comes to police. And I grew up in the community as well. It's not like I'm been through so much that I'm not too good. Listen, I understand these things. And that day, that officer, I feel bad for him.
Yeah,
I feel bad
he's
for this guy.
in a real
I feel bad for this guy.
spot here, because it's kind of like, what do you do? And
He's in a no-win situation.
If he allows this girl to stab this child,
Right.
I think he doesn't win either way.
And listen, this is why we always say training is pertinent when it comes to law enforcement. Because listen, if you do things out of the ordinary, like the George Floyd case, Mike Brown, and all these other guys, the guy in Baltimore, Freddie Gray, Eric, the guy from New York. If you look at all these cases, man, and you look and see what's going on, man, it's just so crazy to watch and see. But training is key. because if you do things like that, you will forget about doing the right things. You know what I'm saying? It's like you doing all these things wrong, you forget about the right things. So training is important because they need to be able to focus on what they're doing. That's why I think that cops really have the worst job out here.
See,
I couldn't be a cop.
Me.
I couldn't be a cop.
But going back to what we were saying in the beginning, and I'm freeze framing this. If you look very closely, you see the girl getting pushed.
Right. I couldn't even see.
She hits the ground.
Right.
Then you see right there the gray pants, this grown man kicking his baby. And this is the same guy who's screaming out the injustice from the police department.
It's crazy,
This
man.
is a tragedy that is hard to even put into words.
This is definitely a tragedy because these are children. In a way, you know what? I don't want to get too emotional and start shedding tears up here, man, because this just touched my heart. I can't continue to watch the video. I can't continue to watch that child sit there and bleed on the ground and die like that over a fight. But look, the knife situation and all these other things that come into play, and then you're like, then you're stuck and you're saying, what could you have done? Let me ask you this. What could have been done better in this situation? Let's move the father out the side, the stepfather, whatever he is, doing whatever dumb stuff he was doing, putting all that aside. What is something that could have been done better? I'm just looking, I'm like, you just don't know in a split second.
The only thing that you can argue, because the officer had really two choices, right? He could either allow this other baby to be stabbed. Maybe she lives, maybe she don't.
Right.
It's a risk.
Mm-hmm.
If you allow that to happen, it's a risk.
Right.
By looking at the video and the way she was holding it, she got me believing that she was actually going to stab the girl.
She was.
That's the way it looked to me.
I thought that's what I thought.
It didn't look like it was an idle threat. Like she was kind of like,
she was in motion.
It looked like she was in full swing.
Yeah.
Cocked it all the way back. And when I look at that, I say, what if that was my child? What would I want the officer to do under those circumstances? I gotta be honest. If that was my child, which is not, thank God, I would almost owe gratitude to the officer for saving my baby's life. I'm not saying that's right, but I think that's how I would be feeling if I was the parent.
As a parent, that's normal though. It's not uncommon. That's normal. You're not gonna be mad that he saved your kid's life. Although it's a terrible situation and we can't have this argument every side our way. You know what I'm saying? We have to make sure that we're being fair when we're breaking down these arguments. Right? When we're breaking down stories like this and we're telling stories like this and we're bringing it to people, we got to make sure we're being fair. I just can't help but to think, even as a parent, I would have felt like that, but I just couldn't help to think that watching her get ready to get stabbed like that and then the shots go off, from there I go blank.
Because it's kind of like, okay, let's just, take the side of the people who feel like this was wrong. What is it that you would want this officer to do under those circumstances?
I would like to know because I don't even know.
And if there's anybody in the comment section who has an opinion that leans towards police brutality, I would love to know. Because the only thing I can think of is under those circumstances, if he had to use force, why did he tap 4 times? That's one.
Why did he shoot her for?
Yeah. Why was she shot 4 times? Now I have a question about that myself. Did it take 4 shots to disarm her?
I don't think so. Not a kid, not a teen, not a child. I don't think so.
So from that aspect, I get it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Why was it 4 shots that rang off?
Right.
Because like you said, 15, 16-year-old kid. I personally think if you didn't shoot her center mass, like if you shot a limb or something like that,
right?
I believe she
probably could have lived.
Would have lived and dropped the knife.
Listen, my son got shot. You know what I'm saying? So these things I know people that get shot and got shot, but 4 times I didn't even go to the story long enough. I just felt so bad. I was so hurt, heartbroken. I never felt bad for a cop in my life. Right. I've never ever in my life felt bad for a cop. I understand the argument why 4 shots. I understand that. I get the 4 shots. I don't think officers are trained to shoot. This is where you got to know how they're being trained. See, these are where all these important factors come into play. How are we training law enforcement? And you know what the problem is? You know why they're doing that? Look, and I hate to say this. Well, I don't hate to say this. You know why they shoot and squeeze, continue to squeeze like that? Because that's how they was trained to do when they come into black communities, raiding houses, and when they get into it with black folks, they was trained to continue shooting till he dead. That's just how it is. So they carry that mentality all the time. Even with children, just think about, these are our babies. How it just lets you know how law enforcement view our babies, black babies. Let me ask you this: what do you think would have happened if it was 2 white girls fighting and one of them had a knife? Can I ask you that?
And this is why I'm on the fence with this, right? Because of everything we're saying now, the 4 shots, it's like, I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe if it was a group of white children fighting, I don't think that level of force would probably be.
Let me say this.
Whether it would have been successful or not.
Right.
I don't think that
they would have used that force.
Right. You may be looking at a dead teenager down there or somebody who was severely stabbed. You know what I mean? I don't think they would have fired the shots.
Right.
So on that side of it, I understand. And that's why it's hard for me in this situation because like I said, I look at it, if it was my daughter.
If it was your daughter, okay.
And then on the other side of it, what if the other girl was my daughter, the girl that had the knife?
Look, I agree. And Miko just asked that. He said, CJ, what if you were the father of the girl with the knife? And Kim O'Donnell said, because they were scared. But look, my thing is, I understand this and I get all of that. And look, I'm not saying that the officer was wrong for firing a shot. Because he wasn't on opponent with close enough to grab her or disarm the teenager. Let me say that.
Yeah, he wasn't close enough.
He wasn't close enough to disarm her, so he did the only thing that he knew. This is where I say training again is important. But look, I look at it like this. I have video where there are white people that jumped out the car on police officers, beat them up, hit them, jumped back in the car, rolled off,
stolen the car,
took the police gun, and just was walked into the jailhouse, basically. So, like I say, I can't just break this down from one side of the argument, right? You have to look at other parts of the argument, like you just explained. Looking at it from that part, what if it was 2 white girls fighting? Do I think this would have been the outcome? No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here and be dishonest about it. If I can say I feel bad for this officer, look, I also feel bad that if that call was made in the white community, that wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
I also know that. So let me just say that I'm smart enough to know like how these things play out. Because even though I've been through a lot, dealing in my life, even run-ins with law enforcement, I understand the other side as well. You know what I'm saying? With these kids and these people, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that. So look, like I said, I'm up in the air with it too. I think that I feel bad for the officer because he's just in a bad spot.
You can either feel bad.
He's just in a bad spot.
It depends on what side of the
what you looking at it.
How you looking at it. I can see where you can be empathetic towards the officer, and I can also see where you can be outraged with the officer.
Right. On both sides, because we outraged with the stepdad for kicking this kid.
Yeah, and to me, that has not been talked about enough because, you know, like I said, I looked at that video probably 1,000 times last night, trying to make my mind up on how I'm going to feel about it. And, you know, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, this one really is too close to call.
It is.
I think due to the nature of everything that's going on in the country right now, the heightened sense of, you know, police brutality and things of that nature, it makes a lot of these topics very sensitive. But at the same time, this one right here is really too close to call. Now, I personally didn't hear it. Somebody told me that they heard the officer say Blue Lives Matter at the end of the video.
What?
Now, I personally didn't hear that, right?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear it. If anybody in the comment section heard that, let it be known that you heard it. But I personally didn't hear that. So,
man, look. And if he said that, then
that puts an entirely different twist on it.
Yeah, it makes it a whole entirely different story.
Right.
The notion and everything. I mean, everything changes with the story if that's the case. Right. So look, man, I'm upset about. I want to be upset, and then I'm feeling like, damn, how can I be upset? And then I'm thinking of it from like, I'm really gonna be enraged because I know if it was in the white community that this wouldn't have happened. If you pull up in the white community where you know cops stay and where you know doctors and lawyers stay, and these two lawyers, these are neighbors, and they out there fighting, this is not gonna happen. I don't know.
There's a lot of subplots to this story too. You know, like I said, I also saw a story that said that the girls went to this girl's house to confront her. So if that's true, that adds another element to it where, okay, if she's home and they come to her house to fight her and she's, you know, somebody gets stabbed, okay, you came to her residence. So now it's almost like, okay, you come to my house looking for that smoke.
Right. You on my property.
You on my property. I can stab you.
But look. Let me say this, man. These are. I want to take that element out because these are not adults. And even though she's still on her property, have a right to defend herself, these are children. I mean, we've seen these things go bad in communities. You know what I'm saying? Really bad, all the time. So I mean, this incident. It's just, everything about it is wrong. Everything about it is bad. And these kids out here got to know that, look, man, y'all got to stop it. I mean, look, we got to stop being angry. We got to, you know what I mean? It's like black people, it's like we mad at each other for something. I mean, even kids, over nothing, social media. You know what I'm saying? Wanting things. I mean, look, don't let material things get you to the place where it, or guys or girls or whoever, whatever the case may be, that it gets you to a point where you have to, you're so uncontrollable that these things happen. Because look, once you start it, you don't know where it's gonna end.
And that brings me back to my point that I made at the very beginning about the father. If indeed that man in the gray sweatsuit is the father who was abusing that other child, now I have to look at him. If that's the example that you're setting for this young lady, okay, you got to take some responsibility.
Because he could have stopped her with the knife.
For this happening. See, all of these things tie in together.
This thing is crazy.
You know what I mean? All of these things. Shout out to Miko who just said that was a false statement. I appreciate that, big homie. That, once again, like, you know, those things, that's poor parenting.
It is. It is.
You lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were out here as a grown man kicking as a man kicking a 15-year-old girl.
Right.
I have questions about your character and how you raising your kids. And this is a foster home at that.
And that was but look at this. All the time he spent kicking this little kid, doing whatever he was doing, he could have been focused on the kid that lived there that had that knife. And all of this could have been avoided. So let's look at it like that, because he could have intervened. Had he not been doing what he was doing, kicking and stomping this little girl while his other daughter or stepkid was getting shot, you know what I'm saying? As a responsible parent, I mean, look, man, he should be the one, part of the blame as well. We can't forget it. Don't leave him out. I say everybody, America, the guy in the gray sweatsuit, point him out. I mean, he wrong. You could have had this could have been avoided. So, you know, look, I ain't making no bones with these people. I'm not saying that I'm some angel or something, but that was just wrong. You don't put your hands on people's kids, you don't hit your people's kids, and then this could have been avoided if you would have set you know what I mean, would have been paying attention and handling your responsibilities like a man.
And shout out to Kim O'Donnell, who also stated that these officers do a lot of these things because they're scared. And that is an absolute fact. We've talked about that multiple times on this platform.
What are they scared of?
They are scared of black people.
That's just an excuse. I don't want to listen.
Wait. Before you go in, I want you to understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
You went to school with white kids.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as somebody who lived in the North and somebody who lived in the South, I can tell you from firsthand experience, a lot of the white kids that grew up in the North, who went to predominantly black schools, they didn't want no problems. They didn't want no smoke. They was a little timid. It might be one or two who really wanted that, you know what I mean, who was on that, but the majority of them did not want no smoke. They moved accordingly. They stayed to themselves, and they tried not to have any problems. Now, once I moved to Georgia in the deep South, oh man, I saw white kids with a whole nother level of confidence.
That's because it's Confederate territory.
So when I say scared, I mean that a lot of these people that become police officers, you don't really get, I mean, it's maybe a few, but the show enough dudes who kind of, you know what I'm saying, move accordingly and live their life, you know what I mean, not being fearful, they normally don't become police officers. The people that I know personally that became police officers, and I'm not knocking anybody, all I'm just gonna say is this: they weren't known as aggressive people. They were very passive, and they didn't want no problems. A lot of them got picked on and all kind of stuff. So when I say a lot of these officers are afraid, there's a double. I'm not talking about they are afraid of the situation. You know, it's kind of like when you're dealing with black people, especially when it's a group of black people, and now you're in a position of power to make the decision on somebody's life. You know what I mean? And you're already built a certain type of way, that can cause you to make terrible decisions.
I agree with you on that. From that standpoint, I agree. But look, I still think that part of that is just an excuse because look, I mean, white folks and white police, they won't afraid of black people when they were hanging them off bridges and doing all these other things to them. I mean, look, look, you can't tell me that you're scared and you're a police officer. You shouldn't come. This is why I say you can't police a community that you know nothing about, right?
And that's 100% correct.
You don't understand. Like black people, we use our hands when we talk. Like when we talk, we notice how we, you know what I mean? And they take that as a sign of aggression. Like we generally loud. A lot of us, I am anyway. Or I'm overhyped sometimes, and you know what I'm saying? But to me, that's just partially an excuse. I don't think they're afraid. I think that is part of that Jim Crow era still. That's in law enforcement, that Willie Lynch theory, all these other things that play from the civil rights movement to slavery is still there, and so these things are there. It's talked amongst themselves. It's like the locker room talk.
Yeah, once you in. But that still doesn't change the fact that you was a sucker before you became a police officer.
Well, yeah, right. I'm not saying that they want a sucker or whatever they were. I don't care. They could have been whatever, getting picked on, got your head busted.
It's kind of like whatever you are in life, right? You know what I'm saying? Even as men, you know what I mean? A part of you is still. Now this is just my belief. I think growing up, you make fight or flight decisions.
Right.
And those decisions that you make as a kid affect you your whole life.
Right.
Whether you're gonna be timid, whether you choose
Be tough,
to be tough or shy or whatever. I think your general makeup is you go through these things growing up. And all I'm saying to this is a lot of these officers, and I'm telling you, the ones that I know that are police officers or retired police officers that I went to school with.
Right.
They, believe me, they weren't known as tough people.
Well, I don't know any of them that I grew up with that's police officers that I knew them as tough people. But when they put the suit on, they got tough for some reason. Because that's the point. Because they
have a lot of them have no business being police officers.
Some days I just get the point where they sitting around drinking with them and their buddies talking about how they gonna treat black folks and what they do. Because look, man, like I said again, this right here would not have happened in a white community.
And Miko made an interesting point. He said the paper read a teenager who was property of the state was shot by an officer, already painting the narrative to the public to protect the officer.
But that's what they do.
And
that's how the media
see.
Look, the media are the ones that decide the outcome of these cases. Because the media put it to the public and they oversaturate the public with these stories. And everything that they have to say or whatever it is, and people get to believe in that, and people get to go on with that and swaying. I don't like people that's easily persuaded by media.
Right.
If you believe everything the media tell you, I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah, you got to dig deeper than that.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk to you.
So from us talking about this for the last 30, 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah,
I think we've come to the conclusion. I mean, there are arguments to be made on both sides of the fence.
They are. It is.
For me, and this is just my opinion alone, it's too close to call, and it's too close for me to protest. So with that being said, man, tell the people when we will return, what time, and where they can find us.
Hey, look, man, we will return next Tuesday at 6 p.m.-ish. Because black folks always late. But guess what? If you didn't catch the show tonight, you can go to Spotify, iHeart, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Chaser, Podcast Addict, YouTube. Look, man, you can catch your plane in the sky. And guess what? The discussion with C&E will be there, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, man. Download content for yourself, man. Share it with your loved ones. And if you haven't donated to the show, man, donate to the show, man. Because guess what? We want to upgrade the equipment. We want to upgrade the show, man. And we also want to go into the community and do outreach work in the community, which we're already planning and, plotting and strategizing to do right now. So every Tuesday, every Thursday, holla at your boys, man. We here, man. C&E the discussion. Like the page. Hit the bell button to get notified.